All right. Welcome once again to Onomatopoeia and Collector's Corner Show. And tonight, which is the 12th, we are actually visiting with our good friend Daniel Mobley, who used to be a local comic book creator before he went on to bigger and better things outside of our area, but continues to do new comic books that he is self-publishing. And he has a new book that he just got printed copies of for Octopus. And one of these days I'm going to have to come up with a actual intro to the show. But in the meanwhile, we'll just go with that and welcome you, Daniel, back to our show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, absolutely. So I actually have you sent me a PDF of the book here so I could take a look at, and I was wondering if I could show people the cover here. Do you
Sure.
mind? All right,
Not at
awesome.
all. Go for it.
So there, right there, we've got the big old cover, full color cover for a black and white comic book. And why don't you give us the lowdown, I guess, real quick, maybe a minute kind of idea behind who Octopus is and what the comic's about.
Okay. Octopus, I created him quite a few years ago. And for this story, I changed quite a few elements around from what it originally was. But essentially, he is like a guardian for a specific tribe of people. And those people have been oppressed by this entity called the mother squid. And he's sent from the ocean by another entity called the karma fish to take back the land from this evil force.
Awesome. No, very, very cool. And this is issue number 2. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Yep.
sir.
Very cool. And I know I still have to work out getting these shipped up to you from you, but we want
Mhm.
to get these on our store. So any of you that are interested in this book, make sure you send us some direct messages. We'll be getting it up available for purchase soon. But all right. So, like I said earlier, I first actually met you, Daniel, gosh, years and years ago when you first came into our store, when we had our brick and mortar store open. And just as a fan, this was pre you publishing anything,
Right,
if I remember correctly.
right.
And over the years, you have not only honed your art style, but I feel like the art kind of had your style has even changed a little bit from what it was originally.
Hmm.
Um, and you are also both writing and doing artwork for for your creation, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've talked to a lot of different people over the past year, creator wise, and one of the interesting things that I always find is being able to have your characters have an actual voice.
Hmm.
And I even talked with Matthew Rosenberg about this a little bit, where, especially when you're doing ensemble books,
Hmm.
how can you have a character sound like have its own voice as opposed to, being able to interchange a character um, yeah, without changing any of the dialogue, for example.
Right.
How do you approach that as a writer?
Uh, I've been pretty, blessed, to have a bit of a talent for writing. That's one of my strong points. I've been told over the years is you have a good ear for dialogue. So I think that just comes from being a um, pop culture junkie. As a kid and just watching a lot of movies, and I pay a lot of attention to how people talk and how conversations go. So that would be my advice for anyone that was looking to be able to hone their skills as far as um, the voices of their characters. Pay attention to how people talk, how conversations go. Just the little minute things will make a big difference. People finish each other's sentences. They talk over each other. They start their thought in the middle of a sentence and try to figure out who your characters are. And then you can add those little nuances as you go along.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are all really great observations. And it's interesting how so many people can do the same type of job completely differently. And when you start talking about art or anything creative, obviously everyone has their own takes, and that's what makes it just flat out amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone else out there that's trying to get their own comics or made or have these ideas in their heads, obviously you've had a long road here that you've been trying to progress on. And it's obviously a lot easier to say I'm going to create a comic book than it is to actually get it published. And I know a lot of people are going the route of like digital these days and whatnot, but there's something to be said, from my perspective at least, about a printed book. You know, I love having the tactile feel of a printed book. What kind of recommendations do you have to people that are either writers or artists that want to try and get their stuff published?
Now, are we talking about self-publishing or?
Either or. I mean, I know you've gone the route of self-publishing.
Yes, sir.
And you use, what's the company you're using again for actual printing of your book?
It's Greco Printing, Comic Wellspring. It's out of Plymouth, Michigan.
Oh, very cool. And they're are they a print to demand company or?
Yes, the minimum that you would have to order is about 25 copies, but they go up from there, and
Sure,
it's a really good company.
Yeah, that's super small. That's great. So for all the speculators out there, can you tell us what the print run on is on your book? Some people don't like giving that information out, and it's fine if you don't.
Well, I just print on demand. You know, I started off with a small run, like 30 to 50 copies. The first issue of Multi-Armed and Dangerous Octopus, it sold out. It was about 30 copies, which is not a lot, but more people wanted it, so I did a second printing of that. And I'll probably do the same for the other three. That's the cool thing about that company is, you know, you just print what you need.
Sure. When you go back and print more, if you're going to, do you change anything, or does it cost too much money to do like an official second print, or would there be any differences between the different runs?
Not really. Like for the second printing for Octopus issue 1, I did a different cover. It was just a variant cover, you know, and it didn't cost any extra or anything like that. You just pop the file in. Everything else was
awesome.
the same. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool because it can give something to a value, right? I mean, because there are collectors and speculators out there, especially in today's day and age where you have, you know, Marvel or DC or any of these companies that are really doing these, you know, second prints, and the print runs are so much lower, so they actually go up higher in price and whatnot. So it's an interesting market. We've got William Evans over here who asked a question in chat, kind of as a follow-up to my original one, but says, how do the voices you choose and personalities apply to Octopus, and what kind of personality does he have?
Octo is early on, you don't really get much of a personality from him because he's learning the world. He's just coming on to you know, the surface, and he's very, you know, determined to complete this mission. He's been sent by the karma fish, and his job is to go kill the mother squid, and that's all that's on his mind. In fact, that's, you know, the first words that come out of his mouth. they come out of his mouth backwards because he's from the ocean and everything is inversed in the beginning, but it's kill mother squid. So we will learn his personality as time goes on, and you learn quite a bit in this second issue, for instance, when he meets the tribeswoman Kayla. So
Yeah, that's really cool. I did really like the concept that you had where you're introducing basically a completely alien race or production. You know, I mean, so often it's you know, the aliens or the other human, non-human style characters just act like humans. You know, so I mean, I thought it was really cool that you're introducing it in such a way that it's showing a diverse culture and race of beings.
mhm.
We also have Despin's Comics asking, Daniel, what is the reason you decided not to crowdfund your book? That's a great question. Is there a lot of people that are out there using Kickstarter or
Right.
whatnot to help get their books published? And this even goes for, you know, like big name people like Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo crowdfunded Noctera
Mhm.
on Kickstarter prior to the publication with Image, and maybe I guess in conjunction with them. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a route to go. Is there a reason why you decided not to do that?
Yeah, I remember even Top Cow used Kickstarter at one point, and that really shocked me to reintroduce Cyberforce, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, it was just like a rite of passage type thing. It's like a stepping stone type thing. So, you know, I'm 38 years old, and it took me 15, 20 years to like start really, you know, drawing these comics and putting the book together. Because, like you say, that's the trap that a lot of us fall in. We just plan to death, and then it just never happens. Or we start and then we don't finish. So it was like a maturity level type thing for me. So I'm going, well, maybe I need to learn how to do this first before I ask all these people to, you know, crowdfund. I do have that in the works eventually. But for right now, I said, well, let me just try to make this on my own and see if there is a demand for it.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I think you, like most artists and creators I know, are
Mhm.
selling yourself a little bit short because, you know, it's definitely very impressive, especially being someone, you know, I can't draw a stick figure correctly. So to see some of the work that you do is just really wonderful. And the sculpting and dialogue is great. There was a page in a near mid section of your second book where you have the panels are just designed in a way where that makes kind of one bigger picture. Um, and actually, do you mind if I show a page of the
Sure.
interior here?
Go for it.
Let's see. I think it's this page right here. Um, I just love the style here, even though it's you know, still the rectangular panels. Just how you have the tentacle coming down over the face, and just how you form that and everything is just stunning. And I know when you've been showing some work on whether it's on Instagram or whatever, that I've made the comment that some of it almost looks like the wood press
Right.
ink prints
Mhm.
on the style that you're using, and I just love that.
I
It's really
appreciate that.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is probably my favorite page. I just love the design on it all. Um, Although the one with the spider in it was really cool too. Um, if I could find that really quick, I don't want to show this page here. Yeah, this is just awesome. You know, it's reminiscent of a lot of different other creators, but completely your own style. And I truly appreciate it. It's good stuff.
Thank you. I grew up. All I can say is I grew up in the '90s. So
Sure. So what kind of influences are you do you think affected your art style or your writing style so much?
Um, Early on, like I said, it was image guys. Um, I looked at a lot of the early '90s, mid '90s comics. So the Kubert brothers, and then as I got older, I started to discover Frank Miller, and Frank Miller is a big influence. I think that's why I get the heavy blacks, um, and
Sure.
the Tin City just blew my mind.
Well, it's amazing, amazing what Frank Miller can do. At the peak of his career,
Hmm.
he was publishing some of the best stuff that's ever been published in comics.
Hmm.
Um, like I also get kind of a Mike Mignola vibe.
Hmm.
Not everything where there's not a ton of sharp definition, but a lot of kind of shadows and whatnot. So I can definitely see that kind of play in there as well. And obviously, these are some of the best people in the business. So to be choosing them as influencers is definitely a good crowd.
Yeah. As far as the recent style, I've been told in the last couple of years it's much more of a manga influence um, in there, and maybe that's just in there as far as some of the layout, some of the pacing and stuff like that. Um,
I
some of
could
the
also,
yeah.
uh, oh, I was just going to say, I could definitely see it, some of it in the framing that you do, like close up on eyes and things like that, which is, yeah, I could definitely see that. Our good friend Brian Martin is asking, can you discuss your first time visiting Collector's Corner and your reason for doing so?
Okay.
That's a good one.
um, I had just moved to Michigan, and a few months before I had just gotten engaged to my wife, and it was really my first time being away from home. And but that was one of my main goals was I got to find a comic shop. And actually, the first week I attempted to come to your shop, I don't know if you remember that, I got into a wreck trying to turn
I
in.
do. Now that you mentioned that, I'd forgotten.
Yeah, actually, someone tried to go around me, and I turned into him, and so that was a pretty expensive trip. But yeah,
Sorry.
I remember coming. No, it's not your fault, but I remember coming in and just not really knowing what to expect. But you and Oliver Jenkins were just you guys were just the coolest people, just laid back, and I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect um, the type of treatment I got. You guys really seemed like you wanted to help me find what I wanted and were really easy to talk to. And many a day I've gotten in trouble or got in trouble for going to Collector's Corner because I come in there and stay in there for 3 or 4 hours. My wife calls, say, "Where are you?"
Yeah, well, you weren't out at the bar drinking, so maybe it's a step up, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess it could be worse, right?
Although there are many a days that I've done that as well. But we'll leave that one alone. Um, oh, that's really really nice of you to say. I really appreciate that, and I know I can speak for Ali in this case that we love comic books so much and love talking with people, and that's the reason why we enjoyed being there at the shop is not so much to run a business as it was to have find kindred spirits, and
Absolutely.
so especially finding people that are creative and wanting to get into it on their own. And I know Ollie's wanted to do some writing before as well, so there was a lot of natural ties there. So
Mhm.
I appreciate the compliment. It's really nice. We also have William Evans
Mhm.
leaving us a comment here. It says, comics are usually a team effort with different people contributing to the whole. When working by yourself, how do you stay motivated since you don't have others to bounce ideas and such off of? That's a great question.
It is. It is a very good question, William. That's when the metal is tested. That's when you really find out, is this something you want to do for a living? Is it something you really have a passion for? And unfortunately, that's where many people drop off. And for me, that was a maturity thing. Like I had to decide, in the last couple of years, am I really going to try to do this or not? And you have 1,000 excuses as to why you've been procrastinating, why you're
Sure.
waiting. I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough artist. Well, okay. I'm not a good enough writer. That may be true. But how are you ever going to get any better if you don't? I mean, we learn everything in life through repetition. You become a better driver. You learn how to eat better with a fork and spoon because you use them over and over again. So I had to decide, and if you uh, talk to many professionals, they'll say at one point we were all in the same position, which is no one will help me make this. No one will help me. So does it not get made, or do I do it myself? And that's
I,
really it comes down to that. You do all those things and you make it work because you don't have a choice.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the choice is otherwise just not to do it, like you
Absolutely.
said. And yeah, I commend you because it's easy enough to say, but I truly do know how hard it is to reach those goals. And even though it may be taking a while to get each step, you're progressing and you're getting those steps made. And you deserve a lot of credit for that. That's wonderful. And I know we have a lot of people up here in the local area that want to support you by picking up your book. And we'll definitely have to get some copies up here very shortly. And I apologize, I don't have them already.
No, no problem. I got them printed up.
Yeah, very cool. Um, all right, so I know that we were talking about Free Comic Book Day
Mhm.
earlier, and one of the things that are coming out prior to that is actually going to be the relaunch of the Milestone universe in DC.
Yes.
And they've got this compilation of a variety of different stories that is coming out and is up for sale on our site right now
Mhm.
for pre-orders. But one of the things versions of it is going to be a blank cover, and Daniel here has graciously offered to do us a cover that we're going to be having available on Free Comic Book Day. Is going to be a one-of-a-kind cover that he is going to do whatever he wants to do on it artistically, and we will do some sort of raffle with it. But let's talk a little bit about the Milestone comics. They
Yeah.
are the characters that were introduced, I guess, gosh, in the 90s, right,
Mhm.
originally from DC, and all uh, African American descent characters.
Mhm.
And I guess why don't you talk to us about what that means to you, Daniel?
Yeah, they came out. They cut that deal in, I believe, 1993, and Dennis Cowan, Dwayne McDuffie, and Michael Davis. Um, yeah, they put together the Dakota universe, the Milestone universe, and it means a lot to me. I actually spent the last, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago, tracking down a lot of the trades, and they were actually harder to find than you would think. Um, and it's not many of them. So I'm really glad that they're doing this relaunch, reboot, and um, releasing some of the old material. I saw that they have Blood Syndicate available on Comixology and stuff. Um, but yeah, it means a lot to me, especially because in 2010 I actually started talking to Dwayne McDuffie online,
Nice.
and yeah, and we would message back and forth, and he was planning on really starting this stuff back up and doing some big things, and I was hoping to maybe work with him down the road. You know, as fate would have it, that wasn't to be, but um, that me developing that online relationship with him really helped me to take a second look at Milestone, because when it was out, I didn't really know anything about it. I discovered everything late, so I was just like a Marvel guy for most of the '90s, you know. But to have those characters um, be people that you can relate to and represent you, and I know that sounds cliche, but it really is a special thing, because I know growing up, it was not it was not around to the point that even being a person of color, you didn't think about it. You know, you didn't
Sure.
think. I remember. I think I told you this story before, but I remember when me and a friend of mine, we were creating characters in our teens, and he talked about his comic and he talked about his characters for weeks. We talk about storylines and everything, and finally he brought some color sketches he had done of his main characters. And the first thing I said to him, I said, "Oh, this character is black." You know, the main character. Oh, he's black, and that seems like it should be an obvious thing, but it just like blew my mind. I don't have to adhere to a certain, archetype or stereotype when I create these stories, and
Sure. Well, I mean, it's all relatively recent, and not be political about it at all, but when it comes to a lot of entertainment and comic books specifically, it took a really long time before you started to have characters that weren't feeling very stereotypical. Whether it was, you know, the Black Lightning of the 70s and 80s with the afro and the
mhm,
whatnot, and I mean a lot of these things felt like it was characters being written by people that didn't ever experience the culture.
mhm,
And I know sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not true, but it was one of the reasons why like the Black Panther film, you and I talked about last
mhm,
year when we did an online thing,
mhm,
where it felt very authentic to me, even though it wasn't a real group of people, right? Like it
mhm,
felt to me as someone that didn't grow up in an African American or an African descent group,
mhm,
that but it felt real.
mhm,
And I think that's because the people that were writing it and putting it all together were people that could draw from personal experiences that made it different from
mhm,
what what I experienced growing up.
mhm,
And that to me is something that is true entertainment. When I can be engrossed into something and fall into a world that's being presented to me, even though I have no experience with that world, or maybe even because of that.
mhm,
Um, Yeah, and it's interesting to see how these characters have evolved over the years into having that truer sense of voice and authenticity, as opposed to being even within the past 15, 20 years of, oh, here's a gay character or here's a Asian character or whatnot.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that there's been a lot more, especially recently,
Mhm.
um, of more wanting to embrace different heritages. DC has the Asian American tribute issue that's going to come out and celebrate a lot of those characters. They've got a Pride issue that's going to be coming out in June.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's really neat to see these characters kind of be real characters as opposed to just token characters. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
and this may be unpopular, but when they did the whole mantle thing with Marvel, I was kind of on the fence about that because um, to me it gave, to some extent, it was a really cool thing. Like, for instance, the whole Sam Wilson is Captain America. I love those comics, you
Mhm.
know. Um, but at the same time, like for certain hardcore fans, to me it gave them a reason to reject it because they, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that they were being fair, but sometimes that's what I liked about Milestone. They took certain archetypes and they turned them on their ear.
Mhm.
Icon is not Superman, but he is.
Right. Right. You could compare power sets
Right.
or kind of the archetypes, but
Mhm.
the details there were very different. You could compare Static Shock to Spider-Man, right?
Right. Right.
But and you could do these correlations. I mean, there are people out there that say all the ideas have been taken, right?
Mhm.
So you're just writing a variation on a different theme.
Mhm.
But and I think that goes very much true for a lot of characters, superheroes, because people want to naturally gravitate towards, oh, it's like this character, it's like that character. But then the more you get into it, the more you realize that where there are similarities, there are more differences, and it's just a matter of whether the companies give these characters the time to actually grow
Right.
into their own, which sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. In recent times, DC did the metal spin-offs and did a character called Silencer, who
Mhm.
everyone said, oh, it's kind of like a female Punisher
Mhm.
character, and really dug the character. But unfortunately, they just never went anywhere with it. Whether DC got cold feet based on numbers and
Right.
canceled the series or whatever happened, end result is we haven't seen the character since that series ended, and that's a shame because it was a character that I think could have been a really, really brilliant character in that
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah, I think yeah. Sometimes I think they lean too much, trying to turn it into a gimmick. Like, and like you say, you gotta put the work in on the character, give it time to grow. One character that I feel like a lot of people didn't respond to well, that I just love from Marvel, is Robbie Reyes, uh,
Hmm.
Ghost Rider. I think that
Sure,
was just the coolest thing. They found a way to take Ghost Rider, but like redo it, man, and turn it on its ear and make you
sure.
look at him in a whole different way. But a lot of people didn't take to it, or
Yeah,
be
but he has been a character, a main character in the Avengers here for a
yeah.
while, and they've even brought him into Agents of Shield. A lot of people basically say that that show isn't canon, right? Even because it's its own spin-off thing. But for what the series did, I thought it was really a lot of fun, and it was pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see where all of the Marvel TV shows wind up being eventually here in the near future. A lot of people speculating that like Daredevil is going to be folded in from Netflix into the
Mhm.
MCU and whatnot.
Mhm.
But sounds like Agents of Shield is going to be its own separate thing.
Mhm.
Uh, We got a hello from Tactical Nerd. Hello there. Thanks for joining us. And we also had a comment from the Eight Armed Killer. Said that he remembered the creator you had mentioned earlier, and he got him to sign his comic for him. That's pretty cool. One of the things also that we want to do kind of moving forwards with different shows is when we have creators on, we want to kind of try and do a convention feel, because I know myself and a lot of people I've talked to, we've really been missing actually getting out to the conventions and meeting friends or fans, other creators and whatnot. And so one of the things that we want to start doing is when we do shows like this, actually invite people on live. We'll add them in, have them ask you a question, basically like walking up to a creator's table,
Right.
getting something signed and whatnot. And so we're going to try and start doing that more and more. So if you do have any questions for us, don't hesitate to post them in the chat. We'll get them on there. And then for any future shows that we do as well, like we're going to be talking with Ram V, who is currently doing Swamp Thing. He's got a new comic book from Boom Studios coming out in a couple of days, and we're going to be doing an interview with him. Well, interview, I say, right? Conversation. Don't want to sound like I'm a professional. But anyone has any questions for him, shoot us a direct message and we'll see about getting you live on with him and get a free signed comic. And if any of you are looking for a signed copy of Daniel's book, also shoot me a message, whether it's in the chat here or direct one, and we'll see what we can do about getting that for you. I'm sure he'd be happy to put some actual ink to the comic for you guys.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, so let's see what else. How about what kind of things are you reading now that you're excited about, or that are on your pile?
I'm reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've been enjoying that for last several issues. I'm reading The Last Ronin.
That
as
book's
well.
absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm waiting on the Milestone books. I'm really looking forward to those. Other than that, see, I'm collecting Unsacred. Let's see. My guilty pleasure, Spawn. I still pick up Spawn.
Well, Todd McFarlane's made a ton of huge announcements this year as making this year of Spawn. And on the secondary market, there's some of his books have just been going crazy. Quite a few books over the $200 price range in the collector's market these days. And you know, he's had a variety of different artists over the years, but the book's still a lot of fun. I mean, it's definitely different than where it originally came from, and I think, you know, you and I have had conversations before where there are storylines that started out, and even by issue 12, were story points just completely forgotten, or you know, I still argue that there was never a good explanation behind the countdown of his powers in the original story arc.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, fun book. And yeah, for those of you that haven't heard, they are going to be doing a Spawn Universe one shot, and then going to have 4 different Spawn titles being published, so one every week. From Image Comic Books and Todd McFarlane. So that should be pretty cool. They've garnered some pretty cool creators for variant covers and whatnot, but going to start that out with a bang.
Yeah, man. I'm also reading. Have you read Ninjas and Robots?
You know, it was a book that when it first came out, we carried, but it just wasn't moving very well for us, unfortunately. And sadly, I can't carry everything, and kind of have to follow suit to what people are buying. Otherwise, I wind up having a copy of everything, and that just takes up too much room in my non-physical store days right now.
But the guy he's got a phenomenal drawing style, very eccentric, very personal style. You know, I really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I started ordering a copy for you, if I remember correctly. I think we
Mhm,
talked about that. I know that you've got the Superman miniseries,
mhm,
uh, or the Red and Blue series. Um, yeah, so there's definitely a lot of stuff out there that's just been absolutely phenomenal, and it's cool that
mhm,
you're keeping up on a lot of it.
mhm.
So would you say your tastes are still running more towards superhero stuff than not these days?
I think I collect more superhero stuff just out of habit. Because I mean, like guys like the Hernandez brothers, Javier Hernandez, um, Adrian Tomine. His books are just blow you away. Not everything is mainstream superheroes. Like I say, I still enjoy it. It's still my first love, but as many books as I have of Batman, I have of you know Adrian Tomine or you know the Hernandez brothers or whatever. Slice
Sure.
of life type books.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you caught my conversation last week with Julio about his new book,
Yeah, I did watch it.
Home.
Mm,
Yeah, but talk about a book that is a great commentary on a subject that's as important as immigration, but then throwing it under a superhuman or superpower lens.
yeah.
Um, and I think it's going to be something that's really going to be able to resonate with a lot of people and bring light to something that I guess more people should be aware of. Because it's a funny thing when I was talking with them about it. You know, from my standpoint, being up here in Michigan,
Mm,
and I was born a citizen. My parents were as well, and
mhm,
uh, it's never been a thing for me, right? And so over the past 4 years, obviously, you hear about it in the news and whatnot, and all these horrific stories that you hear, but it's still, as far as it's impacting my day-to-day life, it's a story on television, right?
mm,
um and to to be able to talk to someone about how that is something that is impacting their life directly,
mm,
whether it's emotionally or directly due to experience or whatnot, is definitely something that helps me step back and just learn more about even American culture and what's
mhm,
going on around us. Um, but one of the things I talk to him about too is the idea that heritage is becoming more and more important across the board, I think, in
mhm,
our country uh, almost every single day, right?
mhm.
Just with more horrific things coming to light and people realizing that we just need to treat each other with respect, treat people like people,
Right,
right?
right,
And just be cool with each other and know that you're not always going to see eye to eye with someone.
right.
That's okay. Respect people's ability to have different opinions than your own. But with that in mind, are there things that, for you, heritage wise, that you think are important that you want to represent uh, in your writing or in your comics or just even in your day to day life?
Well, yeah, I'm a Christian, so those precepts are very important to me, and I'll be dealing with a lot of larger themes in the background of Octopus as the story goes on. But one theme I want to deal with is um, purpose in life. Because we all strive to find a purpose. But we live in a culture now that is just so full of distractions. You know, everything is designed to eat up your time, whether it's worth it or not.
Mhm.
And how
Sure.
many of us are, being introspective enough to think about, am I using my time wisely? You know, when I draw my last breath, when it's all over, will I be able to say, did I use that time wisely? Like you say, did I treat people like people? Or did I only, worry about myself? And I really want to delve into a lot of that in the Octopus story. That the story right now is very small and compact, but the plan is with each chapter to kind of breathe life into the world and add characters. It's a much bigger thing than it seems. But I said, one step at a time. So
Well, sure. And it's not necessarily a great idea to go super deep and heavy right off the get-go, right? I mean,
absolutely.
one of my favorite modern comic writers is Jeff Smith, and
Mhm.
with his creation of Bone,
Yeah.
going from the beginning of a light-hearted, almost comedy-esque book with the Great Cow Race and whatnot, to this super epic,
Mhm.
dark fantasy that rivals Lord of the Rings by the
Mhm.
end, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if he started that way right out of the gate, right,
Right.
I don't think it would have been successful
Right.
to the extent that it is. And so I think you're doing the right choice there, and stepping it up and expanding as you go along, and letting the characters flesh themselves out and grow. So it's a great concept.
I
I
appreciate
think it'll
that.
work a lot better.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what other kind of things are you getting into these days outside of comics? Film, uh, or
Um,
TV shows?
um, there's so many shows to watch. So little time, so many books to read. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, that's quite a tightrope. It's I still, like I say, love watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and um, but every day you have to make a choice, and I think a lot of people don't realize that if you're not an artist, you don't realize that every day, again, distractions. I can literally, play PlayStation 4 for 2 hours, or I can get 2 pages done. You know,
Sure.
so I think I'm getting at that age now where I enjoy the shows and everything, but it's more important for me to do my art, to do my writing, because um, for me it's very therapeutic. It's very cathartic. It's I don't feel well if I don't have that creative outlet. And I realized from years ago that I dealt with a lot of depression and stuff. I think part of the reason was because I was not, getting that stuff done. You know, I think Jessica Abel said that you don't realize it, but it affects everything. If you're a creative person and you're not allowed to create, or you don't give yourself time to create, it affects your relationships. It affects your mood and everything. So I was finding it to become a problem in my life, because when I would spend time with the family, or I had to go do something else, I'm doing things with my brothers and sisters at church, I'm always thinking about the drawing board, and that's not fair to them. It's not fair to
Sure.
anything else that I'm putting the effort into. So once I started to carve out that time, and again, it's a maturity thing. It doesn't happen overnight. You just have to decide.
Well,
Um,
and I think that's something that's easy to miss or to overlook too, right?
right.
Because there's so many things in your day-to-day life that call for your time.
Mhm.
And I know that uh, when when all of this due to COVID started happening for me
Mhm.
personally, my initial thought was, wow, I'm going to have a lot more time on my hand being at home and, not being at the shop for as many hours as I am every week and all this. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to get all this stuff done. And just, we're a year later now, and I'm like, you know it's crazy to think where all this time has gone. And if you're not careful, it's easy to let every day go by where all of a sudden you're not doing these things that you need to take care of yourself. um, and I think that's a really interesting observation from a creative standpoint. uh, that all of a sudden your brain's going to be consumed with the things that it needs to do, that you want
Mhm.
to do. um, and then it will boil over and affect everything else in your life.
Mhm.
That's a very good observation. I think even myself, I can attest to falling into that trap.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, Rhonda actually has a question.
Sure.
Sure. So she is interested in knowing that once conventions become a thing again,
Mhm.
is that something where you think you're going to spend some of your time, where you'll be able to push your product at convention goers, have prints for sale, or a booth where people could come up to you, talk to you, get things signed, or maybe even, travel back to your ex hometown and do a free comic book day signing or something like that?
Absolutely. That's it's really easy right now to kind of get stuck in pandemic mode. Um, but I think it's always been important to look people in the face, especially when you're selling a product. You need to be able to look people in the face, and you need to build those relationships with people. And that's I don't see that going away, at least not for me. So yeah, that definitely is the plan as things open back up, to get out there and meet folks and get the book, in their hands, face to face. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to have you show your passion. And whenever we talk to someone at a con and they're excited about their work,
Mhm.
it just makes us excited about
Right.
it and get more into it. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it goes without saying, you are welcome anytime that we do anything up here in person. Knock on wood, we'll be able to do something in person for Free Comic Book Day. And so if you have the time and the ability to travel, you're always welcome back up here. But
Appreciate
anytime virtually, we always love to chat with you. I know my family misses you, and we don't get to chat often enough.
Yeah, we miss you guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are running up on about the hour-long point here, and we try and keep it around that.
Mhm.
But any other last kind of final thoughts, or anything we didn't touch upon, or
Um, kind of going back to what you were saying about creators looking to publish their own stuff, or get it published. You cannot get it done without doing it. It's no way around it. They say, he who you know fails to plan plans to fail, and that's true.
sure,
But he who plans the plan will definitely fail. You cannot stay on that same mode of I have to have everything perfect. I have to have everything, because you cannot get better without doing the work. And that's the biggest thing that I want to leave with people that are aspiring to do it. Um, you have to do the work, and you're not going to be perfect. And we have tons of professionals that tell us this all the time. But I know I was guilty of it, of not really listening. and you can't worry about what other people think of the work as well. Of course, it's great when people love the work. I mean, we're all looking for some type of vindication when we do stuff, but at the same time, you have to do it for you. I remember hearing that from artists, like Javier Hernandez, and I say, man, that just sounds like, in my naivety, that sounds very selfish, but it's not. It's just a
Sure.
fact of life because you're the one that has to get it done. You have to drive it.
Mhm. Absolutely, I agree, and like you said earlier, there will always be a million and one reasons why you can't get to it.
Right.
Some may be legitimate, some may not, but at the end of the day, keep going and driving and keeping your eye on the goal there. Um, see, William Evans asked, where can we go online to keep an eye on what Daniel's working on in the future? Yeah, that's great. So Instagram or where you at?
Facebook, Twitter, yeah, Instagram is probably where I post most of my artwork and comics
Okay.
and stuff. So
And
yeah,
what's the handle at for Instagram?
let's see.
Put you on the spot.
um, www.instagram.com
Mhm.
/ Daniel Bryan Mobley.
Oh, perfect. Easy,
Yeah.
easy. And then also, if anyone you can't find them, send us a direct message. We'll definitely hook you up.
Yeah.
I do believe I have a couple copies of issue number 1 floating around still. I will get those up as soon as I can, and then we're also going to be getting those issue 2s from Daniel here soon. So if you are interested, shoot me a message, and I'll automatically put those books on hold for you. Um, Other than that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Loved all the questions from you guys today. Um, we are Collector's Corner. This is Onomatopoeia, a Collector's Corner show. You can find us on Facebook at C Corner MI, as well as Instagram, Pinterest, all those fun things. Twitter at also C Corner MI, and our website is ccornermi.com. Finally, our email, info at ccornermi.com. So maybe there's a pattern there. So once again, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Daniel. Always a blast. I appreciate you chatting with us.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great one, guys. Peace.